The emergency summons. Captain Marcus Reed guided his transport ship through the docking sequence with practiced ease, watching the crystal spires of Aurora Prime glitter against the black void of space. The lunar colony had become his second home over the past year, running supply routes between Earth and the outer settlements. What started as routine work had become something more the moment he met Dr. Isabel Morgan. "Captain, you have an urgent transmission from the Aurora Council," his navigator Sarah called from her station, her voice tight with concern. Marcus frowned, pulling himself away from the viewport. "We're not scheduled for official contact. Patch it through." The face that appeared on his screen belonged to High Chancellor Aya, her expression grave. "Captain Reed, we have a situation that requires your immediate attention. Please report to the council chambers the moment you dock." 20 minutes later, Marcus found himself facing 7 stern officials across a table of polished moonstone. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. "Captain Reed, Ambassador Cooper was supposed to participate in the bonding ceremony with the Noctari people tonight," Chancellor Aya began, her fingers steepled before her. "He has vanished. Without a human participant, we risk offending the Noctari houses and destroying 3 years of peace negotiations." Marcus felt ice forming in his gut. "With respect, Chancellor, I'm a cargo pilot. Surely there are other diplomats." "The ceremony happens once per lunar cycle when specific energies align," another counselor explained. "We have 6 hours. You are the only unmated human on this station with the necessary security clearance and cultural training." "Cultural training?" Marcus asked. "Your work with Dr. Morgan's xenobiology team," Aya said, and Marcus felt his heart skip. "You've studied Noctari customs, worked alongside their people during supply runs. You're known to them, trusted." "Known." The word made his throat tight. They meant Isabel. Dr. Isabel Morgan had requested him specifically for her research missions 6 months ago. Since then, he'd flown her to dozens of sites, spending countless hours reviewing data, sharing meals during long surveys. She had a laugh that could warm the coldest transport bay and a mind that could unravel xenobiological mysteries before breakfast. She was brilliant, passionate, and completely unaware that Marcus had been falling for her since their first mission together. "Dr. Morgan will be among the candidates," Aya continued, as if reading his thoughts. 7 women of appropriate status will stand veiled. The bonding ceremony is sacred to the Noctari. You will be blindfolded and must choose your partner through touch alone. Their ritual believes true connection transcends sight, that the soul recognizes its match through deeper senses. Marcus felt the room spin. "And if I choose wrong?" "The bond formed through ceremony is considered absolute," Aya said quietly. "But their traditions hold that if your heart is true, your hands will know her." Every instinct screamed at him to refuse, to walk away from this insanity. But then he thought of the medical supplies Aurora Prime provided to dying colonies, the tentative peace that had taken years to build. And he thought of Isabel, standing somewhere in that line, possibly hoping he would find her. His hands curled into fists at his sides. "When?" "Tonight, when both moons rise." Marcus nodded slowly, sealing his fate. "Then I'll do it." The council members exchanged glances, relief evident on their faces. As they dismissed him to prepare, Marcus caught sight of his reflection in the polished table. He barely recognized the man staring back, about to gamble everything on the wisdom of his hands. The ritual begins. The ceremony hall took Marcus's breath away. It was a cathedral of shadow and starlight, with a transparent dome overhead revealing the twin moons of Aurora Prime hanging like watchful eyes. Their pale radiance provided the only illumination in the vast circular chamber, casting everything in an ethereal silver glow. Marcus stood at the chamber's center, his dress uniform feeling too tight across his shoulders. His heart hammered against his ribs as Chancellor Aya approached with the ceremonial blindfold, a strip of midnight blue silk that seemed to absorb light. "Remember, Captain," she said softly as she raised the fabric to his eyes, "trust your hands. They will tell you what your eyes cannot." Darkness swallowed everything. The world reduced to sound and sensation, his own breathing too loud in his ears, the cool stone floor beneath his boots, the faint whisper of fabric as the candidates took their positions. "The 7 have been prepared," Aya's voice echoed from somewhere to his left. "They will not speak. They will not move unless you touch them first. You must use only your hands, Captain Reed. Let them guide you to truth." Marcus took his first tentative step forward, arms outstretched. His fingers trembled slightly as they found the first figure. He forced himself to focus, to remember everything about Isabel. The first woman was tall, nearly his height. His hands found her shoulders, feeling strong, athletic muscle beneath the ceremonial robes. Her hair was cut short, barely brushing her collar. Not Isabel. Isabel wore her chestnut hair long, always twisted into a practical braid that fell to her mid-back. He moved to the second candidate, pulse quickening. This woman was shorter, softer, with generous curves under flowing fabric. Her hands, when he found them, were adorned with multiple rings that clicked softly as she remained still. He traced up to her face, feeling features that were pleasant but wrong, the cheekbones too wide, the nose too straight. Not her. The third woman made him pause. She was closer to Isabel's height, perhaps 5'6". Her hair fell in waves past her shoulders. But when his fingers ghosted along her arms, he found them too thin, lacking the subtle strength he'd seen Isabel use when handling equipment. Not her either. Desperation crept in as he moved to the fourth candidate. What if Isabel had changed her mind? What if she wasn't here? His hands mapped the woman's face, searching for the small scar Isabel had above her left eyebrow from a childhood accident. Nothing but smooth, unmarked skin. The fifth woman had Isabel's approximate build. His hopes surged as he found long straight hair, felt the slope of shoulders that seemed familiar. But when he touched her hands, they were too large, her fingers too long. The wrongness of it made his chest ache. The sixth candidate was petite, delicate, with features that felt too young. He moved through his examination quickly, knowing this wasn't right. One left. One final chance. Marcus's throat felt tight as he stepped toward the seventh figure. His hand reached out, trembling, and made contact with her arm. Everything stopped. The texture of her skin sent electricity through his fingertips. It was impossibly smooth, almost silken, with a warmth that seemed to radiate from within. But underneath that warmth was something else, a subtle coolness, like touching moonlight made solid. And there was a vibration, so faint he almost missed it, like a purr he could feel rather than hear. His breath caught in his chest. This wasn't right. Something was very, very different about this woman. She was taller than Isabel by at least 4 inches. He could tell as his palm moved up her arm, tracing the elegant, statuesque length of it. Her shoulders were broader, more regal in their bearing. He should pull away. Should go back to one of the others. But his hands seemed to have a mind of their own, continuing their exploration with a hunger that shocked him. The forbidden choice. Marcus's fingers trembled as they moved higher, finding the seventh woman's face. The bone structure beneath his touch was refined, almost otherworldly in its perfection. High cheekbones swept upward in elegant arcs, and her face tapered to a delicate chin that felt sculpted by an artist's hand. When he accidentally brushed her lips, they were full and impossibly soft. He felt her breath hitch at the contact, a small gasp that sent heat coursing through his veins. This was dangerous. This was wrong. This couldn't possibly be Isabel. But then the woman moved. Her hand rose slowly, deliberately, and covered his where it rested against her cheek. Marcus nearly jerked back at the contact. Her fingers were longer than any human's, more slender and graceful, and when they laced through his, the fit was so perfect it made his head spin. That strange vibration intensified where their skin met, humming between their joined palms like an electric current. She guided his other hand down, placing it at her waist, and Marcus's mind went completely blank. The curve there was pronounced, achingly feminine. Her waist dipped inward in a way that made his mouth go dry, then flared out to hips that were lush and generous. She was asking him to truly know her through touch alone, and his traitorous hands obeyed without hesitation. They mapped every contour, the dip of her waist, the soft swell of her hips, the lean strength in her frame that spoke of grace and power. She fit against his palms like she had been designed specifically for them. Like she was the missing piece to a puzzle he hadn't known existed. When she brought both his hands up to rest over her heart, Marcus felt it racing. The rhythm was faster than human, a rapid flutter that matched the strange vibration in her skin. And beneath his fingers, he sensed something else, recognition, rightness, a pull so strong it felt like gravity itself was rearranging around them. Every logical thought in his head screamed that this was impossible. This woman was not Isabel. She wasn't even human. He could feel the differences in every inch of her, from her ethereal skin to her alien heartbeat. But his hands told a different story. They whispered that this was right, that this was meant to be, that some part of him deeper than conscious thought had been searching for exactly this. This one, he heard himself say, his voice rough and raw. I choose this one. The words hung in the air for one eternal moment. Then hands reached up and removed his blindfold. Light flooded his vision, and Marcus found himself staring into the most extraordinary eyes he had ever seen. They were silver, like liquid mercury, with vertical pupils that dilated as they focused on his face. Those eyes were set in features of such haunting beauty that Marcus forgot how to breathe. Her skin held a lustrous purple hue that seemed to shift with subtle iridescence in the moonlight, like oil on water. Hair the color of starlight cascaded over her shoulders in waves that defied earthly texture. When she smiled, tentative and hopeful, he saw that her lips held a deeper violet tint. She was breathtaking. She was clearly alien. And she was absolutely, devastatingly not who he was supposed to choose. The ceremony hall erupted into chaos. Impossible, someone shouted. A Noctari cannot bond with an outsider. The laws are ancient and clear, another voice cried. This violates every protocol. Chancellor Aya's voice cut through the pandemonium like a blade. Silence. The choice has been made through sacred right. The bond is formed. Marcus couldn't look away from the woman before him. She hadn't released his hands. Her slender, graceful fingers still intertwined with his, and that strange, wonderful vibration continued to hum between their joined palms like a song only they could hear. I am Princess Kira of the hidden house of Noctari, she said softly, her voice like wind chimes dancing in a breeze. Daughter of the Twilight Throne. Marcus's world tilted. Princess. But I don't understand. I was choosing between human candidates. You're not supposed to be here. 6 humans, Aya corrected, stepping forward with an unreadable expression. And 1 volunteer we could not legally refuse. Princess Kira invoked her ancient right to participate when Ambassador Cooper vanished. Kira's grip tightened on his hands, her silver eyes searching his face. Forgive the deception, Captain Reed, but it was the only way. The revelation. The only way for what? Marcus demanded, his voice shaking. He couldn't process what was happening. His hands still held this alien princess, and every nerve ending in his body screamed at him not to let go. Kira took a breath, her luminous skin rippling with what he thought might be nervousness. My people bond through darkness and touch, Captain. We cannot see in bright light as humans do. Our eyes are made for shadow and starlight. For generations, we have kept ourselves hidden, separate, because we feared others would not understand our ways. But what does that have to do with me? Marcus struggled to focus, to think past the warmth of her hands in his. When your ship entered orbit 3 months ago, I felt something I had only read about in our oldest texts, she said quietly, and he heard raw honesty in her voice. A resonance. A calling across the void. It was like my soul recognized yours before we ever met. That's impossible. We've never even spoken. Her smile turned wistful, touched with sadness. You transported medical supplies to the shadow districts last season. I was there, Captain, watching from the darkness where my kind dwell. I heard your voice as you helped unload containers, watched you work alongside your crew with such patience and care. You treated the Noctari workers with respect, learned their names, shared your rations when the shift ran long. Marcus remembered that mission. It had been a grueling 48-hour supply run, and yes, he'd worked beside the local crew. But he had never seen anyone matching Kira's description. I felt it then, she continued, her silver eyes never leaving his. This pull, this certainty. I knew you were meant for me. So when the ceremony needed a participant and fate gave me this chance, I volunteered. I invoked my right as royal blood to stand among the candidates. The council members were arguing in heated whispers around them. Marcus caught fragments, diplomatic incident, Noctari law forbids, the hidden houses will never accept. Enough. Kira's voice rang clear and commanding, carrying an authority that silenced the entire chamber. She released one of Marcus's hands to address the council, though she kept the other firmly clasped, as if afraid he might disappear. The ritual is complete. His hands recognized my soul before his eyes could mislead him. This is how my people have chosen mates for thousands of years. In darkness, through touch, allowing the deeper senses to guide us to truth. The sacred binding cannot be undone. Princess Kira, you know the consequences, an elderly Noctari counselor said, his voice gentle but firm. He stepped forward, his own purple skin muted with age. If you bond with an outsider, you may never return to the hidden houses. Your family will be forced to disown you. You will lose your title, your inheritance, everything. I know, she said simply. She turned back to Marcus, and he saw no fear in those mercury eyes, only quiet determination. I have counted the cost and found it acceptable. Some bonds are worth any price. Marcus should protest. Should demand they find a way to undo this madness. His mind reeled with the implications, he'd come here to choose Isabel, to finally bridge the gap between them, to start something real. Instead, he'd bound himself to an alien princess whose very touch seemed to rewire his entire nervous system. But his hands, still clasped in hers, told a different story. They remembered the rightness of her curves, the way her skin hummed beneath his fingers like coming home to a place he'd never been. They had chosen, and some part of him deeper than thought trusted that choice completely. What happens now? He asked quietly, looking between Kira and Chancellor Aya. Aya stepped forward, her expression carefully neutral. By our law and by Noctari tradition, you are bound. You will be given chambers in the royal quarters. The bonding must be consummated within the lunar cycle, or the ritual will be considered void and the insult to the Noctari people will be unforgivable. Kira's cheeks darkened with a blush that turned her iridescent skin a deeper shade of purple. She ducked her head, suddenly looking young and uncertain despite her regal bearing. Marcus found his voice, though it came out rougher than he intended. And if I refuse? Then we risk war. Aya's words were blunt, cutting. The Noctari houses have not permitted an outsider bond in 3 centuries. That Princess Kira volunteered is unprecedented. That you chose her through sacred right before witnesses makes it unbreakable. To reject her now would be the gravest insult imaginable. It would undo everything we've built. The acceptance. The weight of the decision pressed down on Marcus like the gravity of a collapsed star. Accept the bond and figure out the rest later, or refuse and watch years of peace crumble. But when he looked at Kira, really looked at her, he saw past the alien features to the vulnerability in her eyes. She had gambled everything on his hands, recognizing something his conscious mind hadn't known to search for. Then I suppose we should talk, Marcus said slowly, carefully. Relief flooded Kira's features. Her fingers squeezed his gently, gratefully, and that humming vibration between their palms intensified for just a moment. As the council dismissed the ceremony and the other candidates filed out, Marcus caught a glimpse of Isabel among them. Her face was pale, shocked, and when their eyes met across the chamber, he saw hurt flash in her expression before she turned away. Guilt twisted in his gut, sharp and brutal. But there was no going back now. The royal chambers were stunning, all flowing curtains of silver fabric and furniture carved from moonstone. Soft bioluminescent plants provided gentle light that made Kira's skin glow even more beautifully. She stood near the window, looking out at the twin moons, her posture uncertain. "I know this isn't what you wanted," she said quietly without turning. "I know you came here hoping to choose Dr. Morgan. I saw how you looked at her during the supply runs." Marcus felt heat rise in his face. "You watched me that closely." "I watched you every moment I could," she admitted, finally turning to face him. "I memorized the way you moved, the sound of your laugh, the kindness in your eyes when you thought no one was looking. I fell in love with a human I could never have, and then fate gave me one impossible chance." The honesty in her words struck him like a physical blow. She had risked everything, her family, her title, her entire world, for him. For a man she had only observed from shadows. "Why?" he asked, moving closer. "Why take such a massive risk for someone you didn't even know?" Kira's silver eyes shimmered with emotion. "Because when you feel a connection this deep, this certain, you don't question it. You trust it. My people believe the soul knows its match before the mind can understand. That's why we choose in darkness. And your hands, Marcus, they knew me. Despite never having touched me before, they recognized what we could be together." She was right. He couldn't deny that his hands had chosen her with a certainty that defied logic. Even now, standing apart from her, he felt the pull, that gravitational force drawing him closer. "I'm scared," he admitted roughly. "I don't know how to be bonded to someone I just met. I don't know your customs, your language, what you need from me." "Then we learn together," Kira said, stepping closer until only inches separated them. "I don't know human customs either. I don't know what you need, what makes you happy, what frightens you in the dark. But I want to learn. I want to know everything." The twin moons rose higher outside the window, casting silver light across her face. Marcus reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and cupped her cheek in his palm. Her skin was warm silk beneath his touch, and that vibration hummed between them like a heartbeat. "Tell me about this," he said softly, gesturing to the sensation. "This feeling when we touch. It's called the resonance," Kira explained, leaning into his touch like a cat seeking warmth. "When two souls are compatible, their energies sync. It's rare, even among my people. The fact that you feel it too means the bond is genuine, not just ceremonial." She brought her hand up to cover his, and the resonance intensified. Marcus felt it travel up his arm, spreading warmth through his chest. It wasn't uncomfortable, quite the opposite. It felt like the universe itself was confirming this choice. "I need you to understand something," Marcus said, his voice low and serious. "I'm going to try. I'm going to honor this bond and learn who you are. But I need time. I need patience." "I can give you that," Kira whispered. "I can give you all the time you need." She rose on her toes, even with her height, he was still taller, and pressed her forehead against his. The resonance bloomed between them like a supernova, and Marcus felt something shift in his chest. Something that felt dangerously close to the beginning of love. "Maybe," he said quietly, his hands sliding down to her waist, remembering how perfectly she fit against his palms, "just maybe, my hands knew exactly what they were doing." Kira's smile was radiant, transforming her alien features into something breathtaking. "The soul always knows, Marcus. It just took your hands to show you the truth." As the twin moons reached their zenith and bathed the chamber in silver light, Marcus pulled Kira closer, feeling the rightness of her against him. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, didn't know how they would navigate the complexities of their union. But for now, with her warmth in his arms and the resonance singing between them, he was willing to trust that sometimes the heart recognizes home in the most unexpected places. Their lips met softly, tentatively, and Marcus tasted starlight and possibilities. The bond between them pulsed with promise, and he knew with sudden clarity that his hands hadn't made a mistake. They had found exactly what his soul had been searching for all along. The end.